So, welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. As I had stated before, my name is Jerry Holliday. I'm a proud member of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, as are all our speakers this evening. They also are academics, excellence, men of scholarship who have put in the work and toil and help and work to put in and get a book published. So we want to give them their accolades. We want to introduce them to you and give you an opportunity to add their books to your library. So with that, we will go ahead and get started. What we'd like to do is have Dr. Samuel Agbonkpolo introduce yourself and please tell us about your book.
All right. Thank you, Brother Holiday. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your patience. My name is Dr. Samuel Agbonkpolo. I'm a husband, father, son, brother, pharmacist, man of Omega Psi Phi, by way of Phi Lambda chapter, spring 2010. In the year 2012, I did graduate from the University of California, Irvine, with my bachelor's degree in chemistry. Fast forward to 2018, I did receive my doctorate of pharmacy from the University of the Pacific. And now in 2023, I'm a published best-selling author of Dreaded Thoughts Become Spoken Words. This is a project that was really dear to me. Writing for me has always been a way of expression, one of my biggest forms of expression for myself. So just the process of everything was great. I know we'll get into it later. But yeah, it's a great book. It's composed of 23 spoken word poems. It's a quick read. It dives into numerous dreaded situations, some in terms of anxiety, roles in the community, and just touching on everybody's role in life, whether you're a husband yourself, a father yourself, a son, brother, daughter, any situation, it kind of takes a perspective on those roles and empowers yourself through them.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And we'd like to ask Joseph K. Williams Sr., please introduce yourself and tell us about your book.
Yes. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for having me. As has been said, my name is Joseph K. Williams. I am a father. I am a friend. I occupationally serve as a pastoral nonprofit executive with over 30 plus years in ministry and nonprofit executive work and managing nonprofits. I am a member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity, pledged in 1981, an Omicron Gamma chapter at the University District of Columbia, received my Master's of Divinity from Howard University School of Divinity. A native Washingtonian, I grew up in what's called Southeast DC. If you know anything about DC, it's made of 8 wards, and Southeast, that part of the city is where the least resources go. Was fortunate enough being raised by a single parent who instilled in me that there was more promise in my head and heart than it was what I was getting from the streets. I was a teenage father at the age of 16 and began to realize that there was more potential. This book is really not a culmination, but it's a part of the continuing in the purpose of which I was born, to produce materials and to help my community. Move the needle, how to get past those things that hinder your success. It is about being able to move forward in spite of the obstacles that we face and trials, tribulations, struggles, whatever it is, we all have them. They all come our way, in this life, you will have tribulation. But the key is that will tribulation have you? And Move the Needle gives you the opportunity to get some tools in your toolbox to help you to not to get stuck in any situation.
Okay, outstanding. Thank you, Brother Williams. Now we'd like to ask Dr. Aaron Bishop. Please introduce yourself and tell us about your book. Did we lose Dr. Bishop, Brother Bishop? Okay, hopefully he'll sign back in. So we will move on to Brother Shamann. Walton, please introduce yourself and tell us about your book.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Shamann Walton. I came into the Omega Psi Phi fraternity incorporated in the spring of 1996. Morris Brown College, cold-blooded Alpha Sigma chapter, and just excited to be here with everyone this evening. My book, From Juvenile Hall to City Hall, and Your Resume Can Change, is really about making sure that young people understand that your current circumstances are not where you may end up in life. I have a bachelor's in political science, a master's in public administration, and really just want everyone to understand your circumstances can change, your resume can change. If you focus on God, have exposure, and of course, the right mentorship and a strong foundation. So just excited to be here with everybody to talk more about my book, but also to learn from all of you.
Okay, we're going to stay with you, and I'm going to add supervisor. You didn't mention that, but he is an elected official, a fairly high-level elected official in the city of San Francisco. His reputation precedes him. I had heard about him several years ago, and I'm like, I'm elated to have you. So tell us about you mentioned the title of your book and some of your upbringing, but tell us the inspiration for you actually to put this in your story on paper and get it published.
Well, all of my life, I have worked with young people, been in a position, fortunately, to provide mentorship and to play a role in helping young people understand that they can change their lives and they can focus. And I really believe that young people respond to people who have had similar circumstances, who come from the backgrounds that they come from, and who have had to endure some of the hardships that they have. And you're 100% correct. I did not mention that I'm currently on a board of supervisors here in San Francisco, because if we look at the title of the book, From Juvenile Hall to City Hall, the main reason I wrote the book is for young people to understand that you can come from the worst circumstances, endure incarceration, be from public housing community, be raised by a single parent, be a young teen parent yourself, and really rise from all of that, get an education, and go from the bottom, which in my case was Juvenile Hall, and become the president of the Board of Supervisors in San Francisco. So if you think that there's a situation or a circumstance that you're going through that you can't overcome, I'm living proof. There are so many other examples of inspiration and examples of folks who have been able to overcome. And this book really details that. What happens with exposure, what happens with mentorship, what happens with having a strong mother, and of course, the love of God sparing me in certain situations and still allowing me to put myself in a position to be able to make the changes needed to lead a life of what a lot of people would consider to be success. And I'm excited about the opportunities that we have been providing with young people through the book and through the example that we set. And we continue to work with young people consistently. And this book is and can be a guide for people who work with young people who have come from similar backgrounds.
Okay, outstanding. All right, and I see that Dr. Aaron Bishop has joined us, so let's let him catch up. Brother Dr. Aaron Bishop, please introduce yourself and tell us about your book and the inspiration for you writing your book, please.
Well, thank you for your patience. I came in through the back door and maybe even the front door to be here. Again, my name is Dr. Aaron Bishop. I'm the author for a book titled For Such a Time as This. I wrote this book because I wanted to educate or equip transformational leaders to be the change agents in their organizations, in their churches, in their communities. So the book is called For Such a Time as This, and it's available on Amazon or at bishopspeaks.com.
Okay, we'll actually get to that a little bit down the line. Could you also give us a little bit more information about yourself, so people know who exactly you are and the area of expertise you're speaking from?
Well, I do come by near, I do come by far. I am guided by a limp and a star. I am a man of Omega, initiated in the year of the Lord, 1996. I am a initiate of Alpha Gamma chapter at Savannah State. I'm also active with Omicron Phi graduate chapter here. I'm life member 12134. I'm also an elected official here in Columbia, South Carolina, where I've served for the last 13 years as a commissioner for education. Also, I am a faith leader, a pastor for the last 16 years with a church called Grace Christian Church here in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm a business owner, as well as the author of several children's books. So that's it in a nutshell. That's who I am.
Okay, that's quite a lot. Thank you for sharing that. So let's move on to Joseph K. Williams Sr. Please tell us your inspiration, and you shared a little bit of that with your introduction, but can you expand on your inspiration for writing your book?
Absolutely. I mentioned that, the COVID-19 and the pandemic put us all in a paralyzing position. And when I looked out, I looked at a stale government. I looked at the police brutality that many of us were facing as African Americans, as Black men, the bigotry, the hatred, the racial violence, and all the things that came with a Trump administration that seemed like they were setting us backwards. I was listening to the stories of people who were just in pain and paralyzed by that pain, and I realized that there was an answer to that. As a man of faith, as one who knows the call of God on his life and knowing what God has called me to do, I always feel like that I'm supposed to be a solution in my community. I'm supposed to be a part of the solution, not necessarily the solution, but certainly a part of the solution, and making sure that we bring what we can. And so my whole goal is to help people to realize their purpose, to walk in their purpose, and to be strengthened by the inner resolve and what God created them to be. And so Move the Needle was a way to see, hey, we're stuck right now. And the truth of the matter is, if you think about it, back during the pandemic, all we talked about was what Trump wasn't doing, what Trump wasn't doing, what Trump wasn't doing. And it sucked up the air out of the airwaves, and it's all what people focused in on. And I felt like there was something that we needed to, redirect our attention to. So Move the Needle is a way to help us, as I say in the book, to get past those things that hinder us from being successful. And so that's what it was. And for me, it was time. It was the first book that I wrote during the pandemic. I wrote a second book as well, and it just really spawned me to get moving forward in that process.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you an additional part of this, and I'm going to ask each of the other panelists this. Can you share with everyone approximately how long it took you from the time you decided I'm going to write this to actually having a completed and published product?
Yes, for me, the total time was a year. The first 6 months was spent in me rewriting the manuscript itself before I connected with a publisher to help to move in their process. And their process was another 6 months and moving that forward. But it was about a year. And I committed, I've said this to you before, Brother Holiday, you laugh every time I say it, but I committed getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and writing from 3 to 5 every morning from what I was hearing, from what was in my heart. As a pastor, you do sermons all the time. And there was a sermon that really sparked the interest for many. And I decided to take that sermon and turn it into a book. But understanding, once doing exegetical work for the preparation of a sermon and doing the research for doing a book are two different things. So it takes time to expound on it for what you might say and Brother Walton in a 37-minute sermon, which you might say in a 37-minute sermon. In a book, you have to give more energy and more effort to it. And so it really called for some writing and research and making sure I was staying relevant with the topic that I wanted to present. So about a year.
All right. Well, we're going to ask you to expand upon your morning sojourn into literature when everyone else is asleep. Steve. But let's move on. Brother Dr. Agbonkpolo, tell us about your inspiration. I know you mentioned that, in our discussions, you've done started doing spoken word and writing poetry. So let's talk how that transitioned into what we now have as a published book.
Yeah, definitely. I had 3 real main sources of inspiration for this book, because it did start, at a young age for me. My family, they're Nigerian, so academics was really the forefront of my childhood, of just, getting good grades. So in third grade, my teacher, Mrs. Smith, she gave me a D in reading. And there was always this running joke. My parents, they're probably tuned in right now, but I don't know if they remember, I brought that D home and my dad said, my son says he's so smart, but he can't even read. And it just kind of resonated with me for a long time because, the D came from, it was silent reading back then. And I'm a very animated speaker. So, I don't really stay quiet in class. But I kind of took that and told myself, I'm going to write a book and make sure she reads it one day. So that was a childhood promise that I kind of carried with me throughout. And then in sixth grade, I began doing monologues and just different speech events because it was a private school. So they had a certain club that we had that and I told you that I did Casey at the Bat. That was my first monologue. And that's where I really got the confidence to speak in terms of like memorizing a whole piece and performing it. So then it then moves on to just growing up as well. I grew up with a stutter. I mean, I still have it if I get too excited or if I'm a little anxious. So like when I would envision just spoken word poetry, when I would see it in Def Jam, it was always so eloquent. It was always so smooth. And so me just writing that down gave me that confidence again and just speaking publicly. So it's another resource there. And then lastly, the last one would be Tupac's Greatest Hits album. I grew up at probably the last one here to grow up with the CD era. And we go to Best Buy. We got to pick out one CD. And, my sister, I think she got Missy Elliott. And then I got Tupac's Greatest Hits because, I'm young. I thought that was the only album I saw. So I took it and, you play them over and over and over again. And for me, just listening to that album, it really influenced the way I wrote the book as well. Because if you go through the chapters, I wanted it to feel like a greatest hit. So I always said, like, if I'm going to write a book, it's going to just feel like a greatest hits of just my spoken words. And then, fast
Okay.
forward. Oh,
okay. Let's get into that.
Okay.
That's one of the next areas we want to discuss. Let's have you expand on your plan, your process of getting your book written, and what were the steps to get that published, and how long did it take you?
Yeah, perfect. Similar to the other brother, I think we spoke about this, especially Brother Williams, how he gave himself a year. A year was essentially my whole timeline as well. It ended up being about a year and 3 months, just because I wanted to give myself an extra cushion because we had a second wedding in the middle of the process. That's another story. But yeah, so it's about the year end of 2021. The pandemic's been going on. Just a lot of things been going on. A lot of people have been inside. So I really started honing in on writing. And I reached out to a good brother of mine, Teddy McMillan, and he kind of gave me an outline to follow in terms of a timeline. He said the first step should be to focus on the content and then, the formatting and everything later. So I gave myself 6 months to write. It was really about 3 months of hard writing and then another 3 months of revisioning. So that was like a 6 months process there. Had a proofreader / editor kind of look at it to see if any errors, but of course it's spoken word poetry. So certain rules of language, apply differently in terms of corrections. So then about month 9 is when I got serious about just the formatting. So I had Adobe InDesign, and once I figured that out, it was pretty quick. I went through Bowker to get the ISBN number. So this is all within about a 2-month process in terms of the formatting and getting the numbers, understanding what I needed. And then about 11 months in, I kind of sat on it, got the cover work done using another app. There's a whole bunch of avenues, but essentially about a year I was done. And then I wanted to drop it on my birthday, January 24th, 2023, the year, Jordan year. I was born in 91. Jordan won his first championship in 91. It all goes together. So I dropped it on my birthday. So yeah, that's why it took about a year and 3 months.
So you're obviously a Jordan fan. Okay, I understand.
He's all over this world.
he's the bros too. So
exactly.
There's no losing there. But let me ask you this, and we'll ask the other writers. You mentioned a lot of resources. What, for people that are watching and interested in writing their own book, what would you say are some of the key things available that they can find and use to help them in the process? And approximately how much did you spend in terms of from starting your project to actually getting it published?
Yeah, great questions. In terms of just the resources, you just have to understand what's required for publishing, and then everything after that is more so, your choice of how you want to market and everything. Again, my good brother Teddy McMillan had a PDF of pretty much the essentials to publishing a book. So of course you'll need certain things. So the ISBN number is something that's required. It's required for all types of formats. If you're going to do an ebook, it has a separate ISBN. And then a paperback or hard, you'll need to find a distributor. So I went through Amazon, Kindle, direct publishing. So I'm in control of that as well. So the main thing is get your book number, because that's how they track everything. Make the content, of course, find a publisher, and then distribute it.
Okay, and what would you say
the cost?
Yeah.
Yeah, the cost, probably roughly about 1,500, and then if you say, including advertising, probably about 1,600, but around there.
Okay. Just to give everyone an idea that there is some expense in this process. Definitely. And let's just recap. This is Omega Black Writers. This is our 8th webinar. We have 4 additional outstanding writers, bringing our total to 30 who have participated, located throughout the U.S., and we're actually international, having had a member who's published who's in Shanghai, China. So I mention that because, as you can see and hear, these gentlemen are subject matter experts, articulate, bright, fairly handsome. Hey, that was supposed to be funny, guys. So if you need a presenter for a school, for a organization, a community organization, or even business professionals, these gentlemen would fit the bill and could be extremely close to you. So if you want to reach out to any of them, please contact Omega Black Writers on our social media, Facebook and Instagram, and we will make sure that they get your information expeditiously. So with that, let's go to Joseph K. Williams Sr. Tell us what was your out-of-pocket cost, and what are some of the things that you can share in your writing experience besides getting up before the break of dawn, in terms of your plan that you put in place that was effective for you?
Yeah, well, I went through a distributor it's a publishing company. In fact, it was a young lady who I mentored, who helped to start this publishing company. So I wanted to support her in this work. So it was twofold in that way. I spent somewhere in the area a little more than $1,500, $1,600 in terms of their process, because they did everything in terms of the uploading of the book to ISBN. They're getting it on Amazon, the printing company and the like. And so I did that, but I had a dual purpose with it. And I appreciate what other brothers have shared, because that process, certainly, you don't have to spend as much as I spent to get your book published, but you can. And in doing so, part of my process also was having my own editor, because with the company came an editor, and that when you have someone who is on that side of the what I call the source, or the industry, they come at it from a certain perspective, syntax, English language, all of the necessary rules and regulations, etc. But I needed someone who understood the context that I was bringing with scripture, for an example. But I needed someone who also was like me, a journalism major in undergrad. And this person actually has a master's in journalism as well, but was able to look at it in a context and to ask questions of me that were important. Like, so what were you really saying here? And it seems like you may have stopped mid-sentence or mid-thought. Can you come back and look at this? And that was helpful to me, because for me, as a writer, one of the things you do is that you're constantly putting things and you're reading it as you are thinking it, more than what you necessarily have put down on paper. And so it's important to have somebody come behind you and read it to make sure that you're getting the complete thoughts out. And that was critical to me. I think that's a critical aspect, because you're going to have an editor, but have someone who can really understand the context of what you're putting is important.
Okay. And so you would say you're all in at 1,600, basically.
Yeah, for me, for me, and even my second book. For my second book, I spent less.
Okay.
I did because I just had because of the relationship I had with the company. But the it varies based on how you want to go about it. There are self-help books out here, as Brother Sam said, that when you understand the basic tenets of what you need for publishing a book, then there are avenues that you can go about. And you really, in this day of technology, there's a lot of resources available to you. And the most important thing is the commitment of consistent time. I mean,
Right.
consistent time, not
Okay.
not intermittent time, consistent time, because that's going to help you to stay on schedule to accomplish what you're trying to get done. And then the other piece of it, I would say that one of the most important aspects is, and Brother Sam said this, it's the marketing piece. Because if you don't market it, it's just another book on the shelf.
Right. Okay. Very good. All right. Let us move on to Dr. Aaron Bishop, and you're on mute. But tell us about your journey of getting your book written and published, and approximately what kinds of costs did you incur for that process?
Well, thank you again for allowing me to be a part of this panel. I think when you look at the cost of my book, you have to understand the process of the book comes from my dissertation. My dissertation was on the role of transformational leaders in public-private partnership to meet the needs of impoverished youth. So when you look at the cost of a dissertation coming out of the program, organizational leadership and a doctorate in philosophy, we can pile that on top of the cost of my book. But I really wrote the book as something that was less dense as a dissertation, so that the everyday reader who's not looking for necessarily a wealth of research, but a reservoir of wisdom. Because when I wanted to equip and engage transformational leaders in the area of politics, the area of educators, the area of business leaders, and then the area of faith leaders, I was trying to put in this book the urgency of all of these leaders in those four sectors: the church, the schoolhouse, the hall, the city hall, and then also those who are business leaders, the entrepreneur, to know what it is to put all hands on deck for such a time as this. I was really writing the book to really address a story of the Messiah tribe, when the adults of the community don't ask each other, hello, how you doing, or how was your day? They ask the question, how are the children? And the whole sentiment of the story is, if the children are okay, then society's okay. And if you don't say all the children are well, it's a sounding of the alarm that we are in a state of emergency, that there's a sense of urgency for this moment. So I wrote that book for such a time as this, coming off the dissertation, and I spent somewhere north of about $3,200. I was inaccurate earlier of the cost that I thought that my wife told me, but me and her worked as a team to get this thing published, from formatting to getting an editor, to getting someone to do the graphic design. I had to, as you said, I put my face on my cover, so I literally had to hire a photographer. It was a lot. So also making sure that I hosted a book launch for this first time book. That was also included in that cost. So if you want to just get to the bare bones, it was like about $1,800, but throwing everything else on top of that, making sure that the 20-city book tour would be successful, that is the price.
Okay. Do you happen to have like a flyer of your tour schedule?
Yeah, I do, and I'll share it with you.
Well, what I like to do is send it to me, and I will post it on our social media. And that's the same for any of you writers. If you have a schedule of any events where you're going to be having book signings or anything, doesn't matter where you are, we will promote it. And we have a wide following that is nationally based, that someone will be in your area. So just keep that in mind moving forward. Okay, and let's move on to Shamann Walton. Tell us about, the cost of your book and the process and the people that you had to pull in to get to the point where you're published now.
I think a little bit differently than all the good brothers on here is I actually started writing my book when I graduated from undergrad in 1998.
Okay.
And at the time, really just wanted to highlight the fact that I had gone through certain changes and certain obstacles as a young person and became the first one in my family to graduate from college. And as I was writing back then and continued to write over the years, I kept telling myself, well, I want to wait till I accomplish something before I actually published the book. So continued to add to the book and really ended up with something that had several pages, a few hundred pages. And as I got elected to the Board of Education, then got elected to the Board of Supervisors, and was fortunate enough to run a few organizations working with young people, I really realized that we actually had a story that would benefit young people. We actually had a story that would provide a platform for change for young folks, and really decided coming out of the pandemic that it was time to actually pull from the pages of the book and create something that was going to be reader friendly for young people. It was going to be reader friendly for people who work with young people, so that they would have a tool, if you will, some guidance, if you will, that would help them in their journeys as they try to provide mentorship and try to lead young people to success. And so I decided we've accomplished enough. I went through many different titles over the years and really landed on, from Juvenile Hall to City Hall, Your Resume Can Change, because I really think that is 100% reflective of my life, at least up until this point. I took the book, and when I finalized what I wanted to put out to community and put out to the world, I had a friend who had wrote a couple of fiction books, Keisha James, who went to college with me, undergrad at Morris Brown. She did some editing, actually made the language a little nicer, more user-friendly. I was very direct in a lot of ways and wanted to make it to where it was a book that was appropriate for young people to read as they were trying to make changes. Then after she edited, went to Amazon Publishing. They did their own editing, and now they print all the copies hardback, soft copies, or even electronically. The process in terms of expenses really cost me about $900 to go through the Amazon process. They do their own editing to get it to the point where they're ready to print, and then about $600 more for marketing and different things. So about $1,500 before we actually started printing copies and sending them out. Much like Brother Bishop, I've conducted several book signings really across the country, not necessarily set up in a schedule in the same manner, but more so a schedule of where I'm traveling and where I have connections and folks located that can work and assist in helping set up a book signing. So we've been fortunate to do book signings like at the district meeting, working with the district in Alaska, done book signings in Atlanta, Georgia, San Francisco. I've done a couple here in the Bay Area, Pittsburgh, Fairfield. And so we will continue to do more book signings, especially as we go into the new year. And that process, of course, ordering your own books for book signings and making sure you have product, again, is several hundred more dollars for each signing, because we want to make sure you have enough product when you have a book signing. And that's really the process and the cost. But most certainly, because of the journey in life, I really started early with different variations and, of course, made a lot of changes and ended up with a title that I thought resonated with young folks that have had similar experiences.
Okay, let's continue this line. However, let's again, for those who've recently joined us, this is Omega Black Writers webinar number 8. We have obviously done 7 preceding this, and these gentlemen are our 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th writers that we've had that have presented. You can go on to our our social media for information on all the other writers. If you need to reach any of these gentlemen, feel free to message us on Omega Black Writers on Facebook or Instagram. We will make sure that they get that notification within 24 hours. And with that, Brother Walton, let's talk about why you mentioned youth. And obviously, that is a big target of yours for your book. So I would assume not only youth, but parents. So tell those individuals why your book should be on their bookshelf.
Well, again, I truly and firmly know and understand from experience, as being a professional who's worked with young people pretty much my adult life, that
Okay.
they would rather learn from folks who have had similar experiences, who have come from similar backgrounds, and who have really endured some of the hardships that they've had to endure. So when you look at the themes in the book, the themes around mentorship, the themes around focus, the themes around a mother's love, around change of environment, around change of peers, around teen pregnancy, around experimentation, around exposure, around being raised in a single parent household, around being from a public housing community. A lot of the things that present challenges for young people that really, when you look at what the world may say, should make you end up either in prison or dead by this age. We wanted to make sure that we came up with something that gave them a recipe and really a tool to overcome all of that. And so because of the experiences that I've had similar to some of these young folks, I think that it resonates with those young people. And also, again, to your point, a tool for parents, a tool for folks who work with young people, educators, people who work for nonprofit organizations that provide opportunities from young people. In fact, I actually have some brothers who are working in one of the cities out here in the Bay Area, in Vallejo, who have taken the book and created study guides working with young people in juvenile hall right now. And I've had the opportunity, of course, to go back and speak in the very same place where I was incarcerated growing up. And so the reason why folks should really pay attention to this, because it comes from a perspective of a person who's been through some of the things that trouble our young people, but it also gives them the hope and the inspiration that they need to understand and know that where they are in their current circumstances does not have to be where they end up. And we are living proof that if you make a few changes, and again, I got to go back to exposure, I have to go back to mentorship, and of course, the grace of God, what position you can put yourself in when you follow through and make those changes and those steps. And all that information is in the book.
Okay, outstanding. And where can your book be purchased?
So you can go to Amazon.com and you can type in from Juvenile Hall to City Hall. It'll come up and you can purchase hard copies, you can purchase soft copies or electronic copies. And of course, I'll continue to put out on social media where we're doing book signings, where we're going. And right now, you can buy them also at Christopher Books here in San Francisco. And we'll continue to keep pushing on the internet through social media, but Amazon.com from Juvenile Hall to City Hall, they'll pop up and you can hit the link and order as many copies as you like.
Okay, outstanding. All right, and let's move on to Dr. Aaron Bishop. Tell us and our viewers, where can your book be purchased and why your book should be in their libraries?
Well, you can definitely go to Amazon.com and just look up For Such a Time as This and find this very handsome face under that title. And I didn't say it first. Jerry said it first, all right? He didn't say that we were handsome.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Also, you can go to bishopspeaks.com, and therefore I can give a signed autographed copy to you. But let me tell you the reason why this book should be in your possession. One, the greatest thing you can do is invest in yourself. And so when you buy this book, you are investing in yourself to become a transformational leader. And leadership is our biggest solution for the urgency of time. And not only that, it's a grabber at the beginning of this book from the congressman that we all know that is the bruhs that we know that was the minority, made the whip of Congress. His name is Jim Clyburn, Congressman Jim Clyburn. He opens up in the beginning of this book talking about the tortoise and the hare. And we all know this story because we know the hare or the bunny rabbit jumps out and begins to race. And, you know, he gets tired and stops. But Congressman Clyburn highlights the pace and the effort of the tortoise or the turtle. And he also talks about how he has 100 turtles in his office. And we know that this man has been what they call the turtle of Congress. Well, what does that mean? I asked him when I visited him, man, why do you have all these turtles in your office? Why you don't have dogs? You know, we brothers. And he said, well, the truth is the turtle teaches us a valuable lesson that in order for us to make progress, you have to stick your neck out. And that's what he tells us in the beginning of his book, that if you want to make progress, you want to create change, if you want to be a leader for such a time as this is the time you stick your neck out. And we need people who are leaders in the faith community sticking their neck out. We need people who are educators sticking their neck out. We need people who are politicians to stick their neck out. We need business leaders to stick their neck out, because it's our children and our bright tomorrow that is waiting on leaders for such a time as this. So get the book. You'll love to read it. It's also a Kindle version on Amazon, so you can carry it with you in your phone or your iPad capacity. But that's good. I can tell you more about the book, but that'll spoil it, because I'm telling you the best thing you do is invest in yourself. Buying this book, you will invest in yourself.
Okay, outstanding. All right. And Joseph K. Williams Sr., tell us why your book should be in our libraries and where your book can be found.
So I mentioned that I was a journalism major, so I helped to explain why you should have this book through a language analogy. The word "but" is a three-letter word, but it is a conjunction. It is a conjunction that gives you the opportunity to switch from where you were. So you might have things happening in life, but there may be a hard circumstance coming your way. But this book, Move the Needle, can become that conjunction in your life to allow you to move away from those things that were holding you up and holding you back. We break the book down into two basic sections. One is moving forward and one is moving up. And the importance of both and moving and doing them in conjunction is important. So you want this book, whether you're 25, 35, whether you're 45, 50, 65, 75, this book will help you when life comes at your way and throws an avalanche of circumstances that slows you down. Because at the end of the day, God wants us all to fulfill the purpose that we've been designed to fulfill. And this book will help you to stay on that path of purpose. That's why you should have this book on your shelf. And it's an easy read. It's less than 90 pages. So you can read this while you're in the airport. You can read this while you making your way through whatever it is you're doing, but you can pick it up and read it. Yes, you're going to have to go back and look at some of those Greek terms I put in there to help you to understand the etymology of a word, but that's all right. It is an easy read. You can get it on Amazon. It is on Amazon in soft cover as well as Kindle. But you also on the gram, if you hit me at Man One Mind on the gram, I will get you an autographed copy of the book as well. And so, you know, there are opportunities that we are moving forward with in terms of book signings and others, and we'll make sure we get that to you as well, Brother Holiday.
All right, appreciate it. And we will make sure to circulate that from you and any of the other writers. Be absolutely sure of that. Okay, let's move on to Dr. Agbonkpolo and tell us why we should have your book in our library and where your book can be found.
Yes, definitely. Of course, we have the book right here, Dreaded Thoughts. Let me get it out the blur.
There we go. Okay.
Dreaded Thoughts Become Spoken Words. It's available on Amazon.com. Primarily, again, like the other brother said, you know, when I do perform or have any book signings, I do post it on my social media, and then we'll bring copies as well. In terms of why you should have it, you know, the book is filled with a lot of gems, as you know, we like to call it these days, for certain situations. I'm looking at time. It looks like time allows for it. I think I could, you know, show you guys an example of what you can find in the book in terms of an example that I pull from. One of my favorite pieces in the book is called DreamWorks. So essentially, this one is for anybody who is working towards a goal, not trying to make any excuses, but, may have a troubled road ahead. So the difference is some think about doing it while you couldn't stop thinking about it until it was done. Peep how the scheme works. First, you allow any stress to leave your mental. You let your passions cross those barriers. Heavily concentrated, they diffuse into your temple. Inception can cause things to feel coincidental. Instead of questioning if you belong here, be enthused. You ended up where you were meant to. Wake up, walk into a new beat, moving at a new tempo. Your own thoughts become instrumental. So in tune with your why, hard work is now exciting. Working hard becomes more fun than mental. You see, the dream is the beginning. It's the work ethic that instills the fundamentals. So what makes a dream? What makes a dream is no matter how it starts, at the very end, everything worked. Attempting to put those pieces together, wondering how it all worked out. How did all those characters make the scene work? How did what started in your head now become what you see work? You see, any sleeping being can dream, but not all are willing to make them work by any means, whether financially or by the book. The definition of success in any language means work. So do everything in your power with everything that you have to make everything work. The difference is, while some go to sleep to see their dreams, you can't wait to wake up and watch your dreams work. So essentially, that's what you're going to get in the book. You're going to get a lot of just empowering pieces like that, because it's a lot of just, situations, whether it's social injustice, times of, just anything. Anxiety is something everybody's dealing with, especially coming from the pandemic. So it just has a lot of resources, easy read, 85 pages. So, it's something you can take with you and always kind of pull out of your pocket. So available on Amazon.com. Dreaded Thoughts Become Spoken Words. Let's go.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate you. Okay, I'm going to come back with one additional question. Very quick answers. But I did want to let our viewers know that the presenters are not compensated in any way to come out and share their expertise with you this evening. So with that, we do ask that you support them by purchasing their books. We've talked about their books and what they offer, but it's the holiday season with 1L. So, instead of giving, what just for your coworkers, for students, for some family members that you always struggle, well, what do I get them? Young people tend to have everything if they're in a household like that. So these books that we're discussing would make great holiday gifts. So just keep that in mind. And as I said, it actually costs them money to participate. They all donated 5 autographed copies of their book as part of their participation. So the folks that are watching tonight that pre-registered, we will have a random drawing and send you a book. So if you get a call from a 702 area code or a AOL email address asking for your address, it'll be because you didn't include that information in your registration. We've mailed out about 75 books nationally, all across the country to our viewers. So just keep that in mind. But you don't have to kind of just wait on that. Please think about supporting these outstanding writers with a purchase, especially now during this holiday season. And with that, the last question that we're going to ask each of them to address for you is, having gone through this process and completed it successfully, what is one thing that you would suggest or recommend based on your experience that everyone should do, or one thing that you would do differently that you would recommend? And let's go with Dr. Agbonkpolo. Just kind of give us your best thought on that.
Yeah, I mean, the number one thing is just, start writing. Whether it's, whatever idea you do have, don't let it just be a question in your head. Just get to it and, see how the process takes you. Don't worry about how many you're going to sell or how. Just start writing, and the rest is the simple work.
Okay. And just let me also mention that if anyone has any questions, we do have a Q&A. If you have a question, please feel free to enter that in the Q&A and we will address it here shortly. Okay. Joseph K. Williams, what's your one thing?
Be dedicated to your process. That's the essential. That's essential to finishing it. Be dedicated to your process. You know, things will get in the way. You're working. You got other things that are on your plate. But make sure that you be dedicated to the time that you're going to commit to doing this.
Okay. Dr. Aaron Bishop, what's your one nugget or jewel that you have to share with our viewers?
Well, this was my first baby with my book coming out, and you know sometimes you're so careful that you're afraid to take risks to do things, and so one of the things I didn't take advantage of because I was so careful about the process is I should have did an audible version. You
Okay.
know, we do have a lot of people who listen to books on Audible, and so I had, you know, the paper book or the paperback. I had the Kindle version, but I did not have the Audible version. I'm telling you, that is a win. You need to make sure you, if you're looking to do a book, that you have all three set up. So don't rush your process. Stay focused to it, and make sure you get all pieces in place. So when you do launch it, you maximize the exposure opportunity of the book.
Okay, outstanding. Okay, Shamann Walton, what's your one thing?
Well, definitely want to agree with Brother Bishop, and I think Brother Bishop, it's not too late for any of us who don't have our audiobook set up. Most certainly we can do that at any given time. But I'll say, speaking as the one who has written an autobiography, is for everyone to understand that you do have a story. We all have a story in our own right, and we should not be afraid to tell it. A lot of people come up to me and say you're courageous to put your story and put your life on the line for everyone. But I let everyone know that we all have a story. We should not be afraid to tell it, because at the end of the day, you cannot mess up your own story.
Okay. All right. And let's see, let me check and see if we have any questions in the Q&A. I'm not sure if that is working because we seem to be a little different in our webinar today. So I do have additional questions. I always got questions, so no worries. So let me ask you, Brother Walton, in terms of this whole process, you mentioned you started this in 1996.
98.
98. Okay, don't let me put some age on you. But what was one of the most frustrating things that happened to you in terms of getting this done? What is something that you kind of remember, like, oh, that was not a pleasant situation? Can you share that with us?
Well, I think for me, any obstacle that came from writing the book was really something, or limitations that I put on myself. And I say that meaning, as I talked about earlier, I really felt that to put out a book, you need to be famous, or you need to be someone that the world knew, and then that's when you complete your book and get it published. And that's something that, for me, I struggle with. But again, working with young people, working in communities, and really understanding what it takes to help a young person who's going through something have an opportunity to focus on things that help them change their life. Really started to understand that there is information in my story that would really resonate and could resonate, because from the work, obviously I was communicating with young people, talking about the different obstacles that I had to go through when I was their age or when I was in a similar circumstance. So for me, the obstacle of wanting to wait for the right time to release the book was something that I struggled with, obviously, for over 20 years. And when I finally said, it's time for it to happen, we moved forward and got a good response.
Okay. All right. Great. Okay. Dr. Bishop, one of our previous writers who is an academician. He's a dean at college in Arkansas. He used college press, and he's one of the few brothers that we've had on who's talked about that. Are you familiar with that? Did you look at any other options of getting your book published? Or if not, why did you decide on the one that you used was the best one for you?
Well, we're building capacity here with our own publishing, right? Because
Okay.
I self-published. And so with that, me and my wife, we started a publishing company, so we got books for days that
Okay.
we did ourselves because, either you want to buy the fish or you want to go to the lake and fish for yourself. And so I think it's a prime time for not just like men of Omega, but people of our society to own their own process, to own their own product. And so we want to empower ourselves while empowering others and to help them learn this process. So we put a team of people who were illustrators, formatters, editors, photographers, graphic designers. We put all that together so that when we have this kit and caboodle or this toolbox, we can position people to tell their story. Like my brother said, that we all have a story, and not only that, man, I want to help people. And some of the best ways you can help people is just not talking about it, but being about it, and making sure you leave that tool behind for them to build their life with. And so when I created this book, I didn't just want to have something that people read, but in each chapter, I put an exercise in the back to make sure that they did the practices that will make them become a transformational leader. So that's the route I took. I didn't know about the college press, but I know they have it everywhere. I just wanted to make sure I went through Amazon and got it done like the average person does, so I can make sure I get it out there.
Okay. Okay. So let's ask you to give us a little bit more information. So you basically are able to publish books for others now. Is that what you're? So if someone is interested in moving forward with a project, they can reach out to you.
Yes, they can. They can reach out to me at bishopspeaks.com. We'll coach you through the process and help you get your book published as well.
Okay. All right. So keep that in mind. And if you don't remember bishopspeaks.com, again, you can message us through Omega Black Writers on Facebook or Instagram. Okay. Okay. Joseph K. Williams Sr. Okay. Let's ask you, what is the most effective way that you found to build your team that you put together to get your project completed?
I would just say self-referrals or having those individuals as a part of your own bullpen. I think we all, as Brother Bishop just said, that we should all have a level of resources that we can help to have at our disposal to create the things that we're trying to do. So having, your bullpen of individuals, and it's no different like being members of Omega. There are times when you're looking for something, you need something, you reach out to a brother, say, hey, do you know so and so and such and such? I fortunately, because again, being a journalism major, had those contacts as a part of my
Okay.
not only professional but personal connections as well. So that was important to me. And I think about what something Brother Walton said. You have this thing burning in you for a time, and the key is really moving on it and not letting it be too late. I think I've mentioned before that Bishop Vashti McKenzie said to me some years ago when we were sitting, just having a coffee chat between a service, and she said, sometimes when you keep something in the oven too long, it gets burnt. And the truth of the matter is that that's a reality about writers. When you have that in you, go ahead, like Brother Sam said, get it out. Go ahead, just write, just move on it. And so I think for me, having those resources, having and surrounding yourself with people who can inspire you. Because even though we are published writers, we all have mentors and that mentor us, rather, and that, they help inspire us and people we look to. So that's important as well.
Okay. Okay. Outstanding. And finally, not last, not least, but the next, uh, as our youngest writer, and I think you might be. Well, I know with this group, you're certainly the youngest writer, and you may be the youngest writer that we've had. We had one brother last session, and I'll have to check birth certificates to see which one of you got it. But I wanted to ask you, uh, as a young person in today's society, where there's so many challenges that you face that we kind of have gotten through and passed, what would you say to young people in terms of why they should undertake writing or any project when it's there's so much negativity out here? I'm kind of putting you on the spot because it's a very general question, but I'd like to get your opinion as an accomplished young person who is really doing some great work that hopefully will influence other young people to let them know what's possible. So if you could kind of put that together and give us your thoughts on that.
Of course, of course. Yeah, I mean, I guess pulling from what Brother Walton was saying, in terms of everyone has a story. When it comes to writing, you have to understand the purpose of it. So if the purpose is, oh, I just want to write a book, or you just want to make some money, or if it's just a purpose not that's coming from you, then you worry about those outside opinions, those outside sources of negativity. But when you have that purpose and you're fulfilling that purpose and you're putting it out, you're only going to receive people that are aligning with it. They're going to see that purpose when they read your book. There's certain books I haven't read. There's certain books other people haven't read, but the people that read those books will swear by them because they read it with that intention and followed that purpose. So, your book doesn't have to be for the whole world. It just has to be for those that it was meant to be for. So whenever you're writing, just don't focus on what can happen. Just focus on why you're writing. And that'll probably be the best advice I could give on that.
Okay. All right. Very good. As I said, I don't see anything in our Q&A, and I'm not sure that it's actually available. We'll have to do some research prior to our next event, which will likely be in February. I already have two writers who've expressed an interest in participating. One's already sent me his books, so he's ready. So just to let everyone know again, this is Omega Black Writers webinar number 8. We are very pleased with the outstanding members of Omega Sci-Fi who have given of their time to assist and talk about their individual projects. We do want to recognize and thank the Kappa Xi chapter of Omega Sci-Fi located in Las Vegas, Nevada. They do have underwritten some of the expenses incurred with this project. Specifically, I want to thank the immediate past boss list, Shamann, who was in office when we came up with this idea 2 years ago, and his successor, who's now our immediate past boss list, Dr. Andre Denson, for his continued support. The 12th District Omega Sci-Fi that has allowed some of our writers to present and send out our information district-wide to, I believe, 3,500 members. Specifically, our past DR, Kwame Dowd, and our current DR, William Earl Edwards, and our District KRS, Nicholas Thompson. And with that, this will be posted. If you are interested in viewing this later, we will have a link and you can request that again on our social media. And with that, gentlemen, I want to thank you for an excellent representation of Omega Sci-Fi and yourselves individually. Very proud and pleased to call each of you a brother. And we look forward to hearing many, many, many more great things about you. So with that, folks, we're going to call it a night. We look forward to you supporting us in the future, and everyone take care.